these fundamental units we will learn in this chapter. So have you ever thought what are living organisms made up of? Here living organisms means plants, animals, human beings, all the microbes and everything. So as we all know that living organisms are made up of cells. So how was this cell discovered? There was a scientist named Robert Hooke. What he did, you know, bark of the tree, right? The wooden brown colored part of the tree. The brown colored part of the tree is called bark or trunk of the tree. He took a section of that tree. It is called cork. The section of a bark he took and he observed under a microscope. So the main thing here is microscope. The observation under the microscope led for the discovery of a structure called cell. So in 1665, a Robert Hooke scientist took a section of the cork, that is a bark of the tree, and observed under a microscope. He observed some rectangular shaped structures in a uniform manner. He thought this is a compartment type structure and this is resembling something called honeycomb. Honeycomb means place where honeybees live, the house of the honeybees. Have you ever seen that? They are also uniform rectangular shaped, segmented in a line. Both rows and columns will be similar in structure, right? So microscope led the discovery of a thing called cell. So the name of the scientist is Robert Hooke. He observed under a section in the cork of the tree, that is bark, section of a bark is called cork. The cork he observed under the microscopes. So he observed that there are some sections or compartments type thing, room type thing, uniform it is. So that led to the discovery of a thing called cell. Then why did he name it cell? Cell word came from a Latin word which means small compartments or room. So whatever he observed, the small rectangular boxes or the rooms, that he named as cell. Because cell came from a Latin word named cell, meaning small compartments or rooms. Then about all this discovery he has written a book. That book is called Micrographia. About all his studies and research he has written in a book called Micrographia. So cell structure always resembled a honeycomb appearance. So that's why cells are called honeycomb appearance of cells. They are rectangular in shape and resemble the home of the honeybees, where honeybees live on the trees. Then moving on to cell theory. Later, after Robert Hooke, many scientists started studying on the cell. Name of the scientists are Schilden, Schwann and Virchow. They studied extensively about the cells. Then they came to a conclusion that all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. So they came to a conclusion that all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. That is about cell theory. Then now we have understood how cell name has come, how it has been invented. Then moving to the shapes and sizes of the cell. There are different shapes and sizes of the cell, as you know. So what are the shapes of the cell? Oval, spherical, cuboidal, rectangular, irregular and discoid. So these are some of the shapes of the cell. Taking example of oval, what is the example of oval shaped cell? Any egg of an animal maybe. Any animal egg is oval in shape, you know, right? Then spherical in shape, ova. Ova is the egg of a human being, female. That is ovum, ova. That is spherical in shape. Then moving to cuboidal and rectangular. Cuboidal and rectangular shaped cells are tissue cells. We have read complex permanent cells, simple permanent cells, meristematic cells. The tissues chapter, epithelial tissues we have read. So all those complex permanent, simple permanent, all these tissues are simple, cuboidal and rectangular in shape. Then irregularly shaped. Nerve cells or neurons, those are present in the brain. They are irregular in shape. Then discoid. Discoid shaped cells are RBCs, that is red blood corpuscles, and they keep floating in the blood. Then moving on to the size of the cells. The largest sized cell is ostrich egg. So ostrich egg is the largest cell found. Then neuron. Neuron or nerve cell is the longest length cell found in the brain of the human beings. Then mycoplasma. It is again animal cell. It is the smallest size cell. Then cells are always two types, plant cell and animal cell. The animal cell has nucleus in between, it has cytoplasm, it has cell membrane, but it lacks the cell wall. So that is the only one different feature between plant cell and animal cell. Plant cells have cell walls, animal cells do not have cell walls, and human being cells also do not have cell walls. So the plant cell consists of a middle nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a thin fluid-like material called cytoplasm. Again, cytoplasm has lots of cell organelles in it, which we will be dealing further in this chapter. Then it has something called cell wall. Cell wall is surrounded by cell membrane, whereas in animal cell there is no cell wall, only cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. So moving on to the types of the cells. So based on the complexity, cells are of two types: eukaryotic cell and prokaryotic cell. So eukaryotic cell is always present in the higher level of organisms, and they have all the cell organelles. For example, plant cells, they have all the cell organelles. They are present in higher organisms, and the examples are fungi and bacteria. So eukaryotic cells are present in higher organisms, maybe plants, maybe animals. Then they are present, they have all cell organelles. Then the examples are fungi and bacteria. Whereas in prokaryotes, so depending on the types of the cells, depending on the complexity, based on the complexity, the cells are of two types: eukaryotes and prokaryotes. The eukaryotic cells are present in higher level organisms. The prokaryotic cells are present in primitive or lower organisms. Here pro means primitive, primitive means lower group of organisms. So lower group of organisms have prokaryotes. Eukaryotes are present in higher level of organisms. Then eukaryotic cells have all the cell organelles, whereas prokaryotic cells lack cell organelles, or they have only few cell organelles. Then prokaryotic cells do not have nucleus, whereas eukaryotic cells has nucleus. The examples of prokaryotic cells are fungi and bacteria. Then this is depending on the complexity, cells are of two types. Then depending on the presence of cell in the organism, cells are of again two types: multicellular and unicellular. Unicellular, as the name suggests, the organism has only single cell, and that single cell carries out all the functions of the body, like transportation of blood, food, excretion, storage and everything. So in unicellular organisms, single cell performs all the function. Example, amoeba, paramecium. Then coming to multicellular organisms. In multicellular organisms, the group of cells form together to form tissue. Then what does tissue forms? Tissue forms organs. Then what does organs form? Organs form an organ system. Then what does this organ system mean? Organ system lead to a formation of an organism. So multicellular organisms has many cells. Cells form tissues. Tissues lead to the formation of organs of the body. Organs lead to the formation of organ systems. These organ systems lead to the formation of an organism. So multicellular organisms have organ-based system. They lead to the formation of organism. This is based on the presence of cells. These are of two types: unicellular and multicellular. Then what are the living organisms made up of? Living organisms are made up of cells. Then these cells has three major organelles. They are called cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. The cell is mainly made up of cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. We have read here, no? Cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. So in detail we will be dealing about the parts of the cell, inside of the cell now. So moving on to some more information about the cell. There are three concepts. Those three concepts are the cytoplasm of the cell. Cytoplasm of the cell is made up of cell organelles plus cytosol. This is the first concept. The second concept is that cell is made up of cell membrane plus protoplasm. Protoplasm is always the fluid content of the cell. So who discovered the word protoplasm? The scientist named Purkinje in 1839 coined the term protoplasm. He discovered that protoplasm is the fluid content of the cell, and protoplasm is made up of cytoplasm plus nucleus. So these are the three concepts and some more information about the cell. But overall, the cell is composed mainly of three main parts, that is cell membrane, also known as plasma membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. These are the main three parts of a cell. Then cytoplasm further has 6 suborganelles, cell organelles. They are Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, then vacuoles, plastids and many other, which we will be dealing further. So first cell organelle is, first part of the cell we are going to deal is plasma membrane, also known as cell membrane. So what is plasma membrane? Plasma membrane is the outermost covering of the cell, and it separates the cell from the outer environment. Then what is the function of plasma membrane? Allows the entry and exit of the materials both in and out of the cell. Then it permits the movements of some materials only. So this quality of permitting movement of some materials inside and outside is called selectively permeable membrane. What is one more function of plasma membrane? It allows the entry and exit of materials in and out. So the materials can be exchanged both inside and outside of the cell, and in addition to that, it permits movement of some materials. This movement of some materials leads to a structure called, so this feature of movement of some materials make the plasma membrane a selectively permeable membrane. So this is a distinctive feature of only this cell membrane. It is a selectively permeable membrane, allows the movement of water and food through it. Then what our substances move in and out of the cell. Mainly carbon dioxide and oxygen move across the cell membrane by a process called diffusion. So plasma membrane allows the entry and exit of materials inside and outside of the cell, and in addition to that, it allows movements of some materials. So this movement of some material make it an exclusive feature called selectively permeable membrane. So this selectively permeable membrane allows the passage of fluids or gases exchange in and out. So this is an exclusive feature called selectively permeable membrane. So what materials move in and out of the cell? Carbon dioxide and oxygen gas move. Water also moves. Sometimes food also moves in and out of the cell across the cell membrane. This occurs, the movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen movement across the cell membrane occurs by a process called diffusion. So what is diffusion? Movement from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. Suppose for example, taking example of one cell. There is carbon dioxide both inside the cell and outside the cell, but the concentration of carbon dioxide outside the cell is less. So the carbon dioxide present inside the cell will move to the region outside, that is, the carbon dioxide present inside the cell is in high concentration and the carbon dioxide present outside the cell is in low concentration. So by the process of diffusion, it moves from the region of high concentration to low concentration. Then suppose taking an example of oxygen. There is more oxygen outside the cell and there is less oxygen inside the cell. So oxygen moves from outside of the cell to inside of the cell. This also occurs by a process called diffusion, that is movement from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration in the cell, either in to out or out to in. Then moving on to osmosis. So in diffusion there will be movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen due to the difference in concentration levels, either inside or outside. So this is called gaseous exchange between the cell and the environment, between the cell and the outer environment. So this movement of carbon dioxide or oxygen is due to the differences in the concentration. So this leads to gaseous exchange between cells and the environment. Then moving on to osmosis. Water also obeys the diffusion law. Now we are going to talk about water. Here we have talked about movement of gases, right? Now we will talk about water. Water also obeys these laws of diffusion, same, but there is some difference. Here in osmosis, there will be a movement through the selectively permeable membrane, what we told here. So the movement of water will be through a selectively permeable membrane, whereas in diffusion there is no selectively permeable membrane. Directly there is movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen from the region of high concentration to a region of low concentration, whereas in osmosis there will be a movement of water through selectively permeable membrane. But still water also obeys the diffusion law. So what is osmosis? Osmosis is the passage of water from the region of high concentration through semi-permeable membrane to a region of lower Wösner concentration. So the only difference between diffusion and osmosis, the movement occurs through a selectively permeable membrane and occurs only in water and from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. So taking the example for osmosis. So you put an animal cell in a sugar solution or a salt solution. So what you observe? From what you observe, you can make three inferences. So the first inference will be you will see a hypotonic solution. In this hypotonic solution, what happens? The cell will gain water from outside because the outside membrane is very diluted and the inside concentration is more. So the inside the water, the cell will take water inside, absorb water. So that's why the cell sizes increase up. The first solution is hypotonic solution. So in this experiment of putting the plant or animal cell in sugar or salt solution, we infer three things. So the first inference is hypotonic solution. So here what happens, if you put a cell in a sugar or salt solution, and if the medium of the cell around the medium around the cell is diluted, so what happens, the cell, water inside the cell takes it inside. The cell absorbs the water from the outer environment, thereby leads to the increase in size of the cell. So in hypotonic solution, when the cell is placed inside the salt water or sugar solution, if the medium outside is very diluted, so what happens, the cell takes up water from the outer environment to inside. That means the water moves from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration.